The hour of 6 p.m. has come, and we will call to order the Committee of the Whole, the regular session meeting of the Bloomington City Council on today, Monday, May the 18th. As I said, at 6 p.m. And so at this time, we'd ask for you to please stand for a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Next, we'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Okay. Councilmember Kearns. Here. Councilmember Mosley.
Here.
Councilmember Motney.
Here.
Councilmember Dannenberger.
Here.
Councilmember Straza.
Here.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Here.
Councilmember Ward. Here. Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Scott. Here. Mayor Brady.
Here. Thank you. Next, we'll move to public comment. And I believe we have some individuals who would like to give comment tonight.
We do. Would you like me to read the emailed public comments first?
Let's just state that public comment is an opportunity for speakers to provide their views and feedback to the city council. It's also an opportunity for the city council to listen and hear diverse points of view, to maximize the impact of public comment and show respect for the expression of all viewers. Speakers should maintain civility and focus on city issues. Speakers must identify themselves for the record, but are not required to give their address. Each speaker is going to be given 3 minutes, and the council does not respond or engage in debate. And any speaker that engages in threatening or disorderly behavior will be deemed out of order and their time ceased. So at this time, we're asked the clerk then to move forward and call first speaker.
Sure. So our first speaker is Ruth Burke. Next, we'll have Bridget Larkin.
Wait for the timer to show up. Okay, my name is Ruth. I'm a resident of Old Town Township, but I have a Bloomington address. I want to thank you for bringing the discussion on a data center moratorium forward with such urgency. If the data center and AI industry follows through on all the revolutionary promises made by the people in charge, the same folks who stand to profit, there will be future opportunities for the city of Bloomington to cash in. Just today, I listened to a podcast where one of the savvy data center executives admitted that tech like liquid cooling may not happen at all. But frankly, Illinois does not need another data center. There's already 100 new ones planned in Northern Illinois. Are we really so foolish to believe that the MISO grid can support all of these, or that all of them will get built? Our community is better than that, and you're all smart enough to see through that. Sierra has plans for cold storage for a food distribution warehouse on a future property. It's common for companies like Arcadia Cold Storage to provide cold storage for food distribution alongside cooling for computer processing, all in the same facility network. I hope you will direct staff to explore other options for companion industries. Bring the food distribution center here. Please ditch the data center. All that to say that industrial tax dollars are industrial tax dollars. It doesn't matter if it's a hemp processing plant or a data center. Money is money. Please direct the city to explore other options because the people do not want a data center. And it very well may be the #1 issue that they keep in mind when they go to the ballot box. I would personally love to make the capital investments on my farm, which is just a mile from the southeast section of Bloomington where this potential data center might go. So I'd love to sink some money and spend some local dollars, but that'd be an irresponsible financial decision right now if there's a future data center sited just a mile away. Residential and farm property values will plummet. If you do eventually vote for a moratorium, here are some requests. Exercise the power granted to the city of Bloomington in Article 7, Section 6A of the Illinois Constitution. This is also known as Home Rule, to protect the public health, safety, morals, and welfare of our community. Please consult with legal counsel about enacting a permanent ban on new data centers and grandfathering in the ones that already exist here. If the council supports data centers and are unwilling to prohibit the use, collaborate with McLean County. They've already done a lot of the heavy lifting through their new draft ordinances. Those should be the floor for Bloomington. The city also needs to communicate with Old Town Township, who seems to be an afterthought, just like the people who live out that way. And if the council supports data centers, they should require special use approval, hard caps, thresholds, utility impact review, public reporting, and enforceable limits on expansion. Place fines for violations at $10,000 a day. No mega campuses, no small modular nuclear facilities to power them. To be very clear, we do not want any new data centers in the ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, or in the city. That's our ask. I'm not against industrial expansion, but when city
Thank you. If you
budget,
can bring remarks to a close.
thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next up, we have Bridget Larkin. After her, we'll have Barb Stewart.
Thank you guys for letting us come and talk to you about our concerns. I do really appreciate that. Lately, sometimes it doesn't seem like regular people get to be heard much. And so I do thank you for taking the time for doing this. My family has been in this area since 1851. My uncle still farms the farm outside Towanda and Lexington that part of my family is from. I personally have lived in my current address for 36 years in South Hill. I love Bloomington Normal. I brag about us. I brag that we're a city that takes care of each other, that we are Midwesterners. We're practical. We do things that advance all of us. That is good for all of us. I am not against tax dollars or industrial business, but I don't think that Dana centers are right for us right now. I've done my own research and not a ton because I also have a full-time job. And it just makes me think of my grandfather who was the farmer and one day was telling me, I asked him a question, I don't even remember what it was, but he was like, Bridget, this isn't my land, it's your land. And it's only as good if it's ready for the next generation to have. And I think that right now there's just too many variables that we don't know about and we can't control with data centers. If you look at Georgia, they are having big water problems. Newton, Georgia will be water deficient by 2030. And this is from their water department. Their water rates are going to go up 33% in the next 2 years. Fayetteville, Georgia, that has a 615-acre facility, has already used 30 million gallons of water in 15 months because they're not operational yet. And once operational, it will use 200 million gallons of water a year. And that's per their water system. That's from their water system manager saying this. So I don't see how we can, in good conscience, when we have the water problems in this area, say, yeah, let's bring in something that's going to use more water and more natural resources. And then you go into Oregon has just settled a suit with Amazon Processing Data Center. Memphis is suing another processing center because they are releasing nitrates into the air and the water. We really have to think about the Muhammad aquifer around here. There's just, I think a moratorium is a wise decision. I personally would like it to see it for at least a year, but I do appreciate that you realizing that maybe we can do this the practical way, the Midwestern way, where we know pretty much what we're getting into and how we can address the problems that will come from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Barb Stewart, and after that, we'll have Zachary Gittrich. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Zachary Gittrich.
To the most honorable and esteemed city council members and the mayor. My name is Zach Gerich. I'm here to inform you about a special City of Bloomington Township meeting being held on June 1st, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in this very room. This meeting has been called by the people in order to allow the residents of Bloomington to vote to place 3 non-binding referendum in the November ballot. The first question is, should the city of Bloomington repeal the added 1% grocery tax implemented by the Bloomington City Council to provide relief for families? I encourage you to attend and defend the vote you made last year to increase the grocery tax directly to your constituents, especially the members who voted in favor of it. Ward 1's Jenna Kearns, Ward 2, Michael Mosley. We actually might have some medicine for you, Mr. Mosley. Ward 5's Michael Straza, Ward 6, Cody Hendricks, Ward 8's Kent Lee, and Ward 9's Abby Scott. Just as a reminder, Alderperson Mosley, Hendricks, and Lee are up for election in the following spring. The second question is, should the United States federal government ban the transfer of weapons to any country that is a dictatorship, apartheid state, or a major violator of human rights? This should be a no-brainer. But I do want to address a common argument about placing a question like this on the ballot through the township, as many believe the township does not have the power to change federal policy. However, we are not requesting that the elected trustees or township staff attempt to change federal policy on behalf of the township government. We are using the township as a medium through which the United States citizens who reside within the township can vote on a public policy question related to foreign policy. This referendum will be placed on the same ballot where citizens will be electing their United States representatives and United States senators who absolutely do have the power over US foreign policy. And the third and final question is, shall the city of Bloomington implement a moratorium on the creation of any large-scale data centers? I obviously support this question and support y'all implementing a moratorium on large-scale data centers. Even if you pass such a moratorium prior to the special meeting or prior to the November election, I will still encourage residents to place the question on the ballot and or vote in favor of it. When I spoke at the public forum the city held, which I sent you all a copy of the recording for your viewing pleasure, you're welcome, I expressed concern for the social effects these data centers will be used for, namely artificial intelligence. I stated that if the city was not able to regulate how these data centers are used, like the city regulates literally every other business in this town, then it should not approve the construction of data centers. If the city cannot prevent these data centers from being used to replace white-collar workers with AI, cannot prevent AI tech from harming children, from creating revenge porn or child porn, and any other number of maladies, then we should not allow this to operate in our community. We should not give up our water, our air, our land, our electricity, our people for the profits of tech billionaires that couldn't care less about Bloomington, couldn't care less about America, and it's not even clear that they care about humanity in general, or that they even are human. In fact, I did briefly speak with City Manager Juergens, and he said that he would have to look into the law to see if the city actually had the power to regulate a data center in that fashion to prevent it from doing, one thing or another, which seems like a problem. It seems like a problem if you can't stop it from doing certain things you want, even though you can do it for just about anything else. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you all at the special township meeting on June 1st at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Aaron Harwick, and after that, we have Lindsay Marshall.
Good evening to the council members, mayor, and the community. I would like to first start by addressing our common ground here, as I feel that we are all coming from different backgrounds for the same purpose and reason of trying to better our community. And I think standing on that common ground is a great first step. From there, I'd like to start speaking a little bit on some concerns I have regarding the data center that is in question. First, I would like to say I believe Bloomington Normal has a very clear identity of being a small town that has some big city amenities and a very rich history that's built on human-centered engagement and progress. Our economic cornerstones such as State Farm, Rivian, and higher education provide somewhere around 25,000 full-time jobs, support 20,000 students, and inject roughly $2 billion into our local economy while generating roughly $200 million in tax revenue per year. This compared to what the hyperscale data center would bring, somewhere between 3 and 20 million, offers just a fraction, about 1/10 of what we currently already reap from our booming economy locally. I believe that data centers could potentially be a detriment to the continued progress and growth and sustainability of these industries, and that's one of my main concerns here. I understand that data centers feel like a home run in regard to income tax and the temporary jobs that come through. I just simply don't think that they hold a candle proverbially to the long-term sustainability that some of these other industries provide. Obviously, we all know there's not a lot of long-term sustainable jobs that come out of a data center. I believe that we're being asked to risk our community resources for the benefit of big tech, and I don't think that that is a good deal for us necessarily. I think when you consider our local cornerstones such as State Farm, a bedrock in the community, if we bring about new industries that put strain on their current infrastructure in terms of power or water access, I question what kind of message that sends to them and their continued investment in this community, along with Rivian, someone who, by example, came into the community and brought countless jobs, recruits people into the community. Or you look at higher ed, one of the reasons that we are seen to be so competitive is the pristine value that our town offers. And I do believe that if we implement strategies that are going to make that more difficult, then we could put ourselves in a very difficult situation in trying to bring the best and the brightest continue to Bloomington. So again, I really thank you all for your time. I appreciate some of the efforts that are being done around regulating the resources, but I would first be in support of the moratorium and would offer a more strict ban on no data centers moving forward of the large scale that we're talking about. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next.
Next up, we have Lindsay Marshall. After that, Kenneth Jones.
Hello. Thank you so much for moving so quickly after the forums to have this meeting and hear from us again on this moratorium and consider it. I spoke to Mayor Brady and Mr. Juergens during the open forum about reasons why I oppose data centers in our community, not just the city of Bloomington, but also our extraterritorial jurisdiction and the county at large. Just to give you the highlight reel, since not all of y'all were able to come to both forums, my family moved here because we love rural central Illinois. I was on a postdoc at Urbana a few years ago, and when the opportunity to came up, we jumped at it because we love the character of this place. I've also lived in a lot of places, Texas, Oklahoma, and California, that struggle with water shortages and electrical grid failures. And having lived with the daily consequences of that, I don't want that here. And you don't either, I promise. The consequences of these large-scale, hyperscale data centers are pretty astonishing. Beyond just the impact on water supply and electric grid load, these facilities have proven to have devastating consequences to health and environment, rising temperatures in the wide proximity to the facilities themselves, air pollution, noise pollution, light pollution, and the permanent destruction of good farmland that our governor just posted a video this week saying is the strength of Illinois and our economy. Also pushing this into the ETJ, which the proposed site would do, makes us the worst kind of neighbors. I don't want to be a part of a community willing to hurt people just outside city limits for the empty promises of a handful of jobs and the vague promise of tax revenue that will be negated by economic enterprise zone exemptions anyway. Alderperson Scott represents me on this council, and I was actually pretty dismayed to see a statement you made to 25 News Now that you're in support of sustainable data centers because those don't exist. The technology simply doesn't exist, and we don't know that it will. The marketing from developers and operators is really slick, but they can't back it up. We shouldn't trust that they'll be able to, especially now that we're seeing them roll back these promises where they can. In Memphis, XAI has canceled plans for a water recycling plant that it promised to get the plant put there, or the data center put there. In Mississippi, XAI, shockingly, at the South Haven facility, has added 46 gas turbines to bring their own energy to run the data center. I could go on, but I have limited time. On top of that, Gen AI is unproven technology. They haven't figured out how to make money from it yet. It's mostly destructive in many of its applications, so there's no need to rush. If it is what they promise, we'll have time to jump in on this because they'll need it. We don't have to push this. The motto of Silicon Valley is move fast and break things. That should not be the guiding principle of city government and county government. I'm a historian, so when I hear the statements from developers and operators of these data centers in the tech world, I hear the gold rush. The gold rush was a lot like this. People were in a hurry to make a quick buck. They didn't look too close at what the consequences of their actions would be, and it left a trail of ghost towns. I don't want this place to be a ghost town. So I ask for the moratorium, extend it for a year, enact a ban, please, make us good neighbors. And I had to spend all day researching this. I have the time and resources to do it. I have several neighbors I asked to come who can't. I'm going to be thinking of that when I vote. This is the number one issue for me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kenneth Jones. After that, Nicholas Frillman.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Kenneth Jones. I'm opposed to having data centers in this area. They elevate the local electrical charges by as much as 100%. I feel that the billionaire companies that require data centers pay their own way instead of dumping their own expense on the local community. The billionaire companies can afford to put their data centers out in the ocean or out in space. It's been done before. The data centers also use up farmland, which is needed. The local water supply is affected by turning the local water muddy and dark. In the past, there were data centers installed in Mississippi in mainly Black residential areas. The residents complained of muddy, smelly drinking water, polluted air, and cancer complications from the air and water. The data centers create a constant hum and a screeching sound 24/7. I am opposed to data centers in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Nicholas Frillman. After that, Adam Heenan.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks to the committee for the chance to speak tonight. My name is Nick Frillman. My wife Emily and I, along with our 3 children, live in southeast Bloomington in the Waterford Estates subdivision, about 1.5 miles from the proposed data center site. Similar to many here, my first concern with a data center anywhere in Bloomington is its water use. In February this year, we were in an awful months-long drought. Thankfully, we've gotten out of most of that with all the rain, but 4 of the last 5 years here have been below average rainfall years. In February, we were looking at water restrictions going into this year before a data center is part of the mix. In the next serious drought, how much would a data center's enormous water demands worsen the already precarious drinking water situation? Are Bloomington citizens expected to find out the hard way? My second concern is noise. Our neighborhood is in a quiet, peaceful part of town. We spend many hours gardening with our kids, listening to birds, and hanging out on the backyard porch, listening to the wind in the trees. A data center 1.5 miles away could change all of that. You don't have to look far online to find examples of neighborhoods overwhelmed by the constant dull roar of nearby data centers. Maybe this one would be quieter, maybe not. Frankly, I don't want to roll the dice. Then there's the financial argument. We keep hearing about supposed tax revenue benefits from data centers, but residents are already paying sharply higher property taxes 3 years running, while the city somehow faces budget shortfalls. Where's that property tax money going? Why is Bloomington suddenly so desperate for revenue that we're considering bringing a data center into our community? I'm a taxpayer here. I understand that tax revenue is very important. I enjoy all the amenities that were referred to earlier of the city of Bloomington, and I know that they all cost money. I would rather pay yet higher property taxes than have a data center anywhere near me. If this land is so valuable for Bloomington's future, why are we not talking about desperately needed housing instead? Bloomington Normal already has a huge housing shortage, and families are struggling to find affordable homes. A recent national poll found that 70% of Americans oppose data centers being built in their communities. Earlier this year in Festus, Missouri, city officials approved a massive data center project despite overwhelming public opposition from residents, raising many of the same concerns we've heard here tonight so far. Residents felt ignored, and in the next election just a little while ago, voters removed multiple pro-data center city council members from office. People are paying attention to these projects and the consequences they bring. Are you prepared to accept the electoral consequences of approving a data center here? Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Next, we have Adam Heenan. After that, Michael Perez.
Good evening, city councilors. Adam Heenan. I won't repeat what so many of our residents have already said. I'm in stark opposition to a data center in Bloomington for all of the same serious concerns around resources, around the temporary nature of jobs, of things like payment in lieu of taxes, the implications for our taxing bodies, Heartland, District 87, Unit 5, ISU. We all stand to lose in the long run with a data center in our midst. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Michael Perez. After that, Nick Sittinger.
Yes, thank you very much for having this meeting. Do appreciate you hearing our voices. My name is Michael Perez in Ward 9. I would like to, like everyone else here has said, express my that I'm against data centers in our town from all the other points of water usage, electrical usage, not to mention heat islands. We already have enough problem with heat. It's already rising. We've already seen that. We don't need any more. The noise would give me also concern. Lastly, I'll keep it brief because you have a lot of people to talk to. I would say no tax incentives. We do not need to encourage this. We do not need to give them any money or withhold any money that's coming to us. The other part is a lot of times these data centers are built with out-of-town labor. This would be not benefiting the community at all, especially our unions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Nick Sittinger. After that, James Eastep.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'd like to thank you all for being here. Thanks for inviting us in the community as well. My name is Nick Sittinger. I'm a relatively new resident of Bloomington, moved here about a year and a half ago. We moved here down from Chicago. I moved with my wife and we had my 1-year-old at the time. She's 3 now, and we now have a 1-year-old as well. I live down in the southeast side of Bloomington, close to where the data center will be built. I'd also like to voice my support of the moratorium as well as my opposition to the entire thing. I also don't want to repeat all the everything that's been said, but I think major concerns would be water usage. I mean, we're literally just coming out of a drought. I don't really understand how this is like real, but the thing's extremely fast, significant. I think hopes of building a data center now, it'd obviously be out of date, and like we just don't really know what's going to happen with it. I think the moratorium can give us at least time to prepare and understand what we'd be getting into. A little bit more about my story. Since I've moved here, one of the things I've really come to understand is that this is a community that really prioritizes families. There's parks everywhere. This is a really nice community to live and raise my family. That's why I moved down here. The prospect of having a data center being very close and potentially like poisoning, like our air and doing all sort of environmental damage to us and our family is very, very upsetting considering I just moved down here. I'll just encourage you all to please consider and really understand the effects of the people that, if you were to build a data center, that you'd be impacting the local community. And just please keep in mind that as a family community, which I think we all take pride in, please just keep us in mind while you think about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have James Eastep. After that, Kathy Petty.
Hi, my name is James Eastep. I live right down the street here in Bloomington. I appreciate the time to talk about this. As we already stated, what just happened in Missouri, I would urge a warning on that. It can happen here. I won't have a spinning record here. A lot of people already said what I was going to say. I will say one thing that I think is important. We have a lot of problems here that I think go ahead of a data center coming in. We have buildings in downtown Bloomington that are in decay. We're letting owners keep them in decay until we have to condemn them and buy them back on tax dollars, tear them down and turn them into parking lots. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I walk my dog in the neighborhoods west and east of Main Street here, and every day I have to worry about whether I'm going to break my neck on the sidewalk or the curbs. Things that can be fixed before a data center. People hit on water. Like they said, we came out of a drought, 4-year drought. We're still in a drought. We're pumping out of 2 lakes. The lakes are low. Are they low? Are they not low? Did we not just spend $1 million on a new filtration system because people were complaining about the water? You know, the taste of the water. Do we have water? Do we not have water? Every year we're getting a letter in our mailbox saying water's going up for repairs that were supposed to be made years ago. What happened there? We have electricity's going up. Same letter in the mailbox. Okay, we don't have the grid for this. We come out of winter. We have water mains break every single week around Bloomington. We have repairs going in. We have the infrastructure for this. Another thing I want to hit is someone mentioned a stat earlier about $200 million from Big Corp, I think, coming in for tax revenue. Where's the money going? I know that that's just corporate money alone. If that stat is true, it's a lot of money. We're taxed here. If you think about grocery tax, you think about our sales tax, you think about property tax, we might as well be in Cook County. Trust me, my family lives there. We certainly don't look like Cook County here. If you look at the west side, if you look at this side, we have people breaking into cars in broad daylight on a Friday, a block from here, in private garages. I know, not to knock our public workers, our first responders, any of that. I know their hands are tied by the state, but we have a lot of problems here, I think, that come before a data center. I'm not opposed to data centers down the road. Once, like people said, we figure stuff out, we see where it's going. There's been a lot of good talk, a lot of good points about things aren't going like they say they are. People don't know how to use Gen AI. I work in tech here. I don't know what they're doing with AI. A lot of money's being wasted on AI, and it's not profitable yet. Okay. So I would take that as a very good point. So down the road, I think maybe we hold out on it now, and then down the road, I would also agree on the tax breaks. They can pay for it. They don't get tax breaks. They don't need it. We need help. The citizens here need help. It shouldn't be passed on to the residents. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Kathy Petty, and then we are out of time for our 30 minutes public comment, but we do have 2 after that if council wanted to consider extending the time.
Thank you.
Kathy Petty.
Go ahead.
First, I would like to thank you for allowing us to comment tonight. I understand that not all government meetings making decisions related to data centers are allowing this. Shame on them. I oppose data centers because of water issues, power issues, noise issues. I'm sure you've heard a lot of arguments pertaining to these issues. I have some other points I would like to bring up. Have you been to a data center? If not, I would suggest before you make any suggestions about data centers, you visit one. I have not been to one, I'll admit, but I think that people making decisions probably should take that into account. We are in the beginning era of data centers. Have you considered what will happen if power and water demands to these centers change? Will they close up and build more efficient buildings elsewhere after their incentives run out? Will data centers be overbuilt and start to shut down? Where will that leave us? For the few jobs created outside of building the centers, it seems a very poor investment. If data centers were responsible, ethical businesses, why don't they pick places to build that have the resources they need? Can we trust these companies? I think not. They have no interest in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Since we're out of time now for
We
public
are out of
comments, we have
time.
2 more to go.
We do have 2 more to go, so if council wanted to.
Is there a member of council who'd like to make a
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Motion by Member Ward and seconded by
And absolutely, thank you.
Member Motney. For an addition, 2 more speakers, 6 minutes.
I'll just do a voice vote. Councilmember Kearns.
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley.
Yes.
Councilmember Motney.
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberger.
Yes.
Councilmember Straza.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Scott. Yes, thank you. Apologies. Next up, we have, let me scroll, Peggy Bentley, and after that, Chris Gibbons.
My name is Peggy Bentley, and I live in Bloomington. And I'd like to thank you for allowing me to give you my thoughts on this important matter. Technology is ever changing. What is needed or wanted today becomes obsolete tomorrow, whether tomorrow is truly tomorrow or in 5 or 10 years. What will become of this data center when technology changes and it's no longer needed? Will this center revert back to the city? Was it worth those tax incentives? If the city gets it back, it comes off the tax roll, just like Owens Nursery property, Montgomery Ward's property, and other parcels throughout our city. And then again, it could become a huge truck and car wash to continue using our water resources. But I digress. Again, technology is ever changing. This building, this data center, you want to build on McLean County farmland that will use our precious resources of water and electricity, could in the future eventually become obsolete. Why? Because technology changes, possibly to the point that everything in a data center today could fit inside of a Tesla car in 5 years. Are you going to offer tax incentives? Offering tax incentives are for increasing job creation. A data center will only employ fewer than 20 people. It generates long-term revenue, payroll and income tax from new workers, property taxes on the building. Okay, I can accept that. But increased spending at local businesses, 10 to 15, 20 people, that will not happen. Revitalize distressed areas. This building is not a federal opportunity zone. It's not a blighted property. Where is the long-term economic stability? If anything, it destabilizes our water resources. There will be no demand for local suppliers, contractors, and service providers once this building is up and running. So no existing local businesses will grow. And so think about it. We all want to vote no. How about you? Thank you for listening.
You. Next.
Last up, we have Chris Gibbons.
Hey, I'm Chris Gibbons. I'm from Bloomington, Illinois. I live in Ward 4 and Precinct 27. There's been a lot of talk today regarding conservation and how data centers or surveillance centers are bad for our land conservation, water conservation, and so on. Also a lot to say regarding power rates and water rates. Many have mentioned noise and light pollution, also economic and business concerns. I find myself wondering who asked for this, and that's a many tiered question that many of us have asked. All these things are very important, and I agree with those of you today who've spoken to them, so thank you very much. I would also like to speak to the morality of enabling a vast machine to run roughshod over our town and over our nation. For example, the Box Elder Surveillance Center is a perfect example of corruption of this system. Special interests have raided a community and silenced and ignored their citizens. Project Sail in Georgia is another example. Companies claiming eminent domain and removing people from generational land and generational homes. The ultra rich, like Alex Karp, Larry Ellison, Elon Musk, are saying outrageous shit on the internet and on their Twitter or truth accounts. Just recently, Peter Thiel mentioned that freedom and democracy are incompatible with one another and largely blamed women, people of color, and those living under the poverty line to blame for that. What are we doing here? The question that I have is, How are we inviting this group to be our neighbor? Is this the company that we would like to keep in this community? And when they inevitably do lie to us after they've stolen from us, who is going to hold them accountable because they are the richest people on the planet? I'm additionally concerned because the U.S. counterterrorism strategy of 2026 mentions an amendment to their previous categories of terrorists. These include violent left-wing extremists, including anarchists and anti-fascists. These are the threat, apparently. And unfortunately, that's the exact rhetoric that's being used by many of these CEOs of major AI companies when they speak of people like us in this room, terrorists, extremists. So they've got the data. They're going to find who we are if we let them. I'll close with a quote from Ilya Kaminsky and his book called Deaf Republic. The quote is, "At the trial of God, we will ask, why did you allow all of this? And the answer will be an echo. Why did you allow all of this?" Thank you.
Thank you. That conclude our speakers.
That's all for
Public comment?
speakers. We do have a number that emailed public comment. I'd like to read those names into the record.
Okay.
We had one that was non-data center related, Kelly Outlaw. The remaining list is regarding data centers. Randy White, Wilhelmina Eswine, Joseph Hale, Thomas Hale, Jill Christensen, Vicky Smith, Lynn Braddocky, Patsy Fortune, Teresa, no last name was given, Andrea Canales, Becky Howell, Laura Hammond, Tegan Bolin, Albert Stabler, and Patricia Morin.
Thank you. And thanks to our speakers. Next, we'll move to the regular agenda items of the committee of the whole this evening. The first is a discussion of council considering the adoption of formal ethics policy. I believe that many of you were either in attendance or remembered Barbara Stewart, who is with us this evening, her and her committee have brought forth this proposal, which is the proposed code of ethics from the Ethics Committee of Bloomington Normal. She's spoken to us in the past. You've all received information regarding the proposal of ethics. And at this time, I'd like to extend to council the opportunity for any input, for direction about the future proposal and your thoughts on next steps. Are there any council members who would like to share any input?
I'd be all
Member
for,
Scott.
I'd be all for accepting this. I appreciate the opportunity to reestablish our values and repeat those for the community.
Thank you. Any other members who have input? Once again, to those in attendance, we're not taking a vote on this. We're trying to take a consensus from the council. Member Hendricks.
Yeah, I would just echo those sentiments. I was able to and honored to work with Barb on this for probably a year or so that we met off and on and discussed, and she brought together lots of different stakeholders and community members to discuss this, and wasn't able to make all the meetings, but quite a few of those. And I know I've spoken with a lot of you as my colleagues that this was something that we would hopefully be in favor of, and the town of Normal adopted this code. The county adopted this as well, thanks to the efforts of Barb as well. So I look forward to this being on hopefully our next agenda.
Any other members that have comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Member Ward.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I cannot imagine what would be controversial about committing ourselves to being ethical. So my only question is, when could we get this on the agenda?
Yeah, and I just want to say for the record, not knowing when it'll be on the agenda, because I know that we'll have some absences, but I am supportive of this based on the values that I hold. And I would hope that we would all be supportive of it.
Thank you. Any other members that have input? And I believe then, Mr. Tyus, the next step would be towards council agenda for May 26th.
Absolutely. We can have it on for May 26th. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you. On to the next item for discussion would be letter B, which is discussion and direction of the next steps related to data centers. And as we've had two public forums, our comments here this evening, we've had individuals as representatives of this body, input from constituents, I'm sure, and others. And so if there's someone who is wanting to give their input as to the status or the next steps actually regarding the data centers and for the council, please feel free. Member Mosley.
Yeah, I just want to say, Mayor, that, and to council that I'm going to be supportive of the moratorium. And I do want to put some parameters around it as well, because I think our sentiments have come from the knowledge that people have been able to gain on their own. And I think someone said, right, visit a data center. And I guess I've been fortunate because of the field that I'm in, I have visited them. And I know the strenuous demand that it will place on our infrastructure unless we put in those curbs and those expectations for those organizations. But I do think one thing about data centers, because I don't want us to get into the back and forth regarding data centers, kind of like what we did when we talked about, because people spoke publicly about that as well with the massage parlors, right? They didn't want to be boxed in or labeled. And I don't want it to be assumed that any data center is just going to be chaotic for any entity or any city, particularly ours, because there is a realm, and yes, technology changes, but there is a need for data centers. Not saying that it's here, but I do think that we probably need to, rather than us just have an open dialogue and us talk about our perspectives and take public comments, I would like for us to get a lecturer in to kind of talk about what entities have seen as the pros and cons, as well as the technical implications and the benefits. And one thing that I will say as well, as we look at those type of entities that may want to come to Bloomington, if they do, and I think someone said it, right? How do we get them to kind of bring in their own energy structures where they're not tapping into ours and their own resources? And I'll give an example, State Farm's water. That water belongs to State Farm, right? And that's what, when State Farm did host their own data center, that's what kind of cooled the data centers. And there's other organizations that do that. But I just want to make sure that we give people the facts so they don't think that we're making decisions or our city staff is looking into things behind closed doors, right? We do need to make sure that we give people the information for them to either come here and speak based on the public, and then also make sure that they have their answers provided to them, because obviously in public comments, we don't respond. So that's it.
Thank you. Other members?
Yes, thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, echoing what Member Mosley said, I want to see structure on this, and I'm certainly supportive of a moratorium. I'm certainly supportive of adopting code, much like Aurora has done or the county has done, to put these limitations. And I want to comment also about trust. I want to thank everyone who has spoken up and reached out. And over the past 2 months, I've learned a tremendous amount. And to be completely transparent, I am a data scientist. I use generative AI. I found it to be an amazing equalizer for folks that don't have the same privileges that I do. And indeed, many of my coworkers and friends for whom English is a second language have used it. And I don't have a problem with the city using it as a tool for efficiency as long as it's, proofread. The specific learning that I have had to do around this involved specifically the mistrust of the city. And I've heard, fears that the city is already committed to a project, the decisions are being made behind closed doors, or employees have signed NDAs or are on the take. And it surprised me. And I mean, I understand mistrust of government in general, but this was intense. And I've come to better understand why, and some of the things were mentioned today. Nationally, AI development has been concentrated in the hands of very few individuals. And there's a real fear that if they wanted to, these companies could come and run ramshot over our community. And given that, I completely understand being nervous and that our city government would not consider our best interests at heart. And I hope that this moratorium provides some faith and potential transparency. And I do want it to, continue to go further. We need the 6-month moratorium to work through the details and requirements. And I like, again, the idea that I've heard about taking up the work that other bodies have done, like the county and the city of Aurora, and structuring our own requirements. And I ask that we continue to reach out to all stakeholders, residents, business community, our construction unions, and our neighbors, and we do so nimbly, and don't keep folks on the line, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Other members with comments? Really?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think the moratorium is a good move. I think from where I'm at, Ward 8 would be impacted, considering one of the proposed sites. I know several from Ward 8 have come and spoken. I've talked to several members of the HOA over by the Grove and Dunraven. So, and I actually have a meeting with the Dunraven HOA folks this week as well. So I would say that the moratorium is a good move. I think, having some time to think through this and put some controls around data centers, and also just looking at the stories coming out of other towns and cities that have looked at data centers or have built data centers, and what the impacts of those were. So I think we can do a lot of research and learn before we move forward. So I think the moratorium is a good move. Thank you.
Member Hendricks.
Oh, so I will, echo the sentiments, especially of Member Scott, that were said very well, surrounding the fact that, yeah, part of the point of why we're doing this is to make sure that individuals feel heard, and to show that we are trying to be as thoughtful as possible through this process. And so I really want us to support a moratorium for at least 6 months, for us to work with the county and other partners to make sure that we are on the same page, not just in Bloomington, but in our larger region or community. And I want us to also be open to, if the time comes where we get to the end of that 6 months and we realize we're running out of time, that we extend that moratorium if needed and not simply rush through to meet a deadline. So very supportive of this. Great concerns around data centers, have for quite some time. This would have been an easy vote months ago if we would have had that. But I'm glad to see that it's coming to us now.
Member Ward?
So this is what democracy looks like. And I mainly want to congratulate all of you who have come to speak, not only at this meeting, but at the previous 2 public hearings that we had, or listening sessions. I don't know if they were officially public hearings, but listening sessions. And I want to just slightly correct those of you who stood up and said, thanks for this privilege. It's not a privilege, it's an obligation, because that's what democracy looks like. So thank you for keeping your voices being heard and making this speakable, for calling us to account. I also support a moratorium, and in my view, it should be at least 6 months, not up to 6 months, as I think I've seen it written here and there. In that time, I think it behooves us to continue to be a bit nuanced, in the sense that not all data centers are created equal, right? We have data centers in this community already. What makes those okay? What makes those viable? What makes those something that we might consider more of? What makes other data centers things that are not okay? And I think we need to get very clear and very specific in the language of our policies around that. I also think, and one of the public commenters tonight and at other forums raised this, it's not an either or kind of situation, not just, either no data centers or all data centers, right? But it's also not an either or situation, as someone pointed out, between we either have data centers or we have nothing in terms of any kind of development. I think we need to keep that in front of us all the time, because I think in our society right now, we are very, very polarized, and it's like, oh, I can't even talk to you because you asked a question about this. And I have heard some of that, right? Why are we even talking about this? Well, we're talking about it because that's what democracy looks like, right? That's what we're talking about it for. So I need us, I hope that we can all continue to allow each other to ask questions and to learn more and to be nuanced in what we're saying. And so for that reason, I think we need at least 6 months.
Any other members?
I'm going to take another pass
Member Mosley?
because I'm going to be out next week. And I agree. I don't think we're going to have answers to all questions in 6 months, but questions that I would like for you guys to consider next week at the council, and if you could take these down, deputy city managers, is what type of data centers fit in our community? Potentially, as you ask other cities those questions, how they fit there, what infrastructure protections are needed. And then how do we balance economic development with power, water, land use? And the reason that I say that is because obviously we want to entice entities like Alderman Ward said to come to this community. But I'd like for them to bring some things to us too, rather than us just always giving them to welcome them to our community. And then the last one, right? What are the, because someone said, right, or Councilmember Ward just said, is that all data centers aren't going to be equal. So I think we need to talk about what type of data centers that we go into. I think the rush right now is thinking AI, but it's so much more than just that, right? And so I'd like to know some of those answers as we go along the way.
Thank you. Member Motney?
Sure. I don't think there's anything that's been said this evening that I disagree with here. Certainly support the moratorium. I was surprised when this topic came up so quickly, and I just wonder in retrospect, was there an opportunity to bring us into the conversation sooner so that we could address this in a thoughtful way that didn't just create, a real significant amount of fear across the community. I've had the opportunity to drive past an under construction 1,500 acre data center project that literally goes on for 2.8 miles. And that type of hyperscale data center, I don't think it's anything that we should ever entertain in this community. I think the environmental impacts is you look back in the proliferation of windmills that we have literally all over our community as well, many of them reaching now end of life, the environmental impact to that. There certainly would have been an opportunity for a real thoughtful approach, looking forward at what might happen decades to come and how do we deal with that. I support taking this time to educate ourselves more and to understand what might be appropriate, if anything, for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Straza?
Yes. Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I support the moratorium on this myself. There are several things that I want to make sure I understand more. I think I've been taking tours of other data centers, but smaller scale. I've not been to a hyperscale type data center. I would like to put that on my list to make sure I get out there to at least observe it, see what it's about. My biggest concerns have always been my biggest concern from day one. We've been talking about it is our resources, our water, our energy is very important. No matter if we do this or not, we have to figure out our water that we have here. We have 2 lakes. That's where we've been running that type of water for a very long time. So we have to figure out long term for the growth of our community, sustainability of our community, we're going to have to find another water source no matter what. So that is important to me in the coming months, years, to make sure we have that secured. The energy, again, we have to make sure, how do we continue not to just pass on that expense? It's not us, it's the power companies that are basically saying, hey, you're going to be paying for this, not the actual person who built this and is running this. So we want to make sure there are some parameters. If this ever goes down that road, we have to have guidelines, guardrails, and make sure, how do we back that up? What does that look like? And that was comments tonight of people saying, well, what do you do? How are you going to force them to honor the agreement? And that's something we have to look at as one of the considerations in this. And one of the other ones is also end of life. Everything comes to an end on things. windmills, you name it, things come to an end. How do you close those things up? What is the safest way? I do not want to contaminate our groundwater, the people that live around there, or even past that. I want to make sure that we are know what we're doing, ask the right questions, get the right experts. As Member Mosley mentioned about finding those experts, having people come in, not that are part of the wanting to build a data center, people that this is what they do for a living and they have no money in the game here. They basically are saying this is what it will do and will not do for us. Continue to look at other opportunities for economic development. One thing I'm going to say is I think what probably started this a little bit, which is very, I'm glad everyone came out to talk, is I think about a month or so ago, we had something on the agenda about one of the things we were voting on near Sierra, our airport, that had nothing to do with data centers. I don't know if that's ever been communicated. I think it has, but there was something out there that said, oh, that must be the hint of we are actually have a data center ready. That was not that at all. So want to make sure that is clear. There was never us trying to push something through. Nobody on this council nothing's been brought to our attention. The mayor, any of us have been attention to saying, hey, we have someone who's here. Here's who they are. Here's what they're going to do. We do not have that. We've heard we know there's interest, just like there's interest all through Illinois, but there's not been something that's been presented to us and we're aware of anything of that sort. So just want to make sure that's clear. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else I missed?
Yeah, I think it's
Dannenberg.
important that we all chime in. I look forward to voting in favor of this moratorium. I want to thank everyone who has given comment both at either one of the forums or both. And then again tonight, we've heard a lot about water. We've heard a lot about environmental concerns, the financial impact and all that. But I want to thank especially Ruth, Mrs. Larkin, and Nick for going kind of above all of this and reminding us about that this is a neighborhood and that we need to proceed as a Midwesterner. And I think Ruth even said, we're better than this. Those things really resonate with me. Not that the environmental concerns don't, but hovering above all of that is a philosophical kind of question. It's like who we are, what's our identity as a community. And I think this is the type of issue that can define a community. And I think we should take it with that kind of importance and impact. So thanks to everyone for coming again tonight.
Thank you. Along those lines for council and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Regardless.
I'll just quickly add to the fact that I agree that I think there are so many other things that we would like to be talking about and pushing forward in our community. That's the beauty of city government is it's all very complicated and intermixed in each other. And I think that it's our responsibility as council to leave the city better than where we found it. And so a moratorium is the first step of pausing and doing all the things that all of us have been talking about to make sure that we make a lasting impact on what it looks like going forward so that we have, but I think somebody commented on, we need to find a floor. I think it's important that we take these steps so that we aren't burying our head in the sand for something that, we can say we don't want it. I will probably always vote no on any kind of proposal that comes through while I'm on council, but I want to make sure that there are future protections no matter who's on council.
Thank you. And anyone else along those lines for direction of staff? I believe in particular, it sounds like we have a consensus of at least a 6-month moratorium, which is aimed at hyperscale data centers, correct? And Mr. Tyus from our deputy city manager can speak to what the staff, if they have other questions for sense of direction here.
No, actually, that was the big question. Were we talking all data centers or the hyperscale? And I feel like I have direction there. What will happen going forward is that we will come back at the meeting of the 26th with an ordinance coming forth with a moratorium on data centers until we can have a chance to look at some of the potentially stronger standards that we could potentially implement. I do want to be clear to people in the room. It is in the interest of transparency. It is unlikely that you can ban a data center. You can heavily regulate them. And so I don't want people leaving here, but we're going to look. We're going to continue to look. But our understanding is that it's unlikely that you can ban them, but you can regulate them very, very strongly so that you can regulate them, and I'll leave it there. Okay.
Thank you.
Nope, nope, understood. And that's all I have. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think then it's absolutely a consensus that there'll be direction towards at least a 6-month moratorium. And that no matter what happens in the order of transparency for all of us, I know that we pledge and believe in the fact that whatever next steps will be from the council, there'll be a vote where the public certainly knows what's being discussed, what the vote is about, and what stands before you, in explaining that before any one of you as a council member makes a vote. So the issues will be very transparent as they have been. So with that, we'll move on to another issue on our agenda, and that is under letter C, discussion on the process for council amending items being considered during council meetings. And I think there's maybe a slide that we have that if you take a look, one of the things that after talking with not only our legal department, but talking with our clerks and also city staff, and some of you, most of you actually from the council, was to discuss the ideas of what we could do when substantive amendments must be submitted and changes made. And what several are interested in, myself included, in bringing this forward, is to simply have a process in which that instead of during the times of meetings, that our clerk or legal is trying to either give recommendation or take dictation, if you will, as to what one believes the wording should be, that there's a process put in place of that. And that particular proposed city council amendment process is what is being brought before you for discussion this evening, in an attempt to, we talk about many things, and we talk about democracy. And this in itself is very much just that, the process in which we clarify, the process in which we articulate, and the process in which we know as representatives of the people of the city of Bloomington what the amendments are we are voting on, and make them as clear as possible. So with that, I'd be happy to open up for discussion and direction to staff and input from anyone on council. And if there's not,
Yeah. I guess some of my initial thoughts were like, one is the request is that it be made 48 hours in advance. And lots of times our agenda comes out on Fridays. And so to me, that doesn't give us much time with it before we will have to have a fully formed amendment. I know that it's not like a one or another, like if we want to make the amendment later than that, there's not a process to do that. I understand that part. I don't know, this just seems overly, like I think I would agree to making some changes, to maybe bolster a more orderly way that we're making amendments, but this just seems like a little bit too much. Like it's overdone. Like I wonder if there's a way in between that we can kind of create a process forward, but that isn't so,
that's,
I'm pointing, like as an example, pointing to the 48 hours before
sure.
meeting.
Thank you. That's the whole purpose of our discussion, is to develop a process. You have to start somewhere. And the direction that we're seeking from council is to move forward with a process we can bring back to you. This is the first attempt at that. So I appreciate your comments in regards to that, and opening for discussion. Want to move forward so we have direction for staff of how we can come back with something and have a council vote on a piece of amendment. Go ahead, Member Motney.
Sure. If I'm reading this correctly behind me, the substantive amendment must be made by 12 p.m. on the meeting day, and the 48 hours applies after postponement to provide details. Okay, my pleasure. I think, it's helpful to have structure. I know sometimes when we do amendments, I find myself leaning over to our council to, can you read that again? Can you, to make sure, and we're doing that audibly, which is always to some extent a risk without seeing that in writing. So thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, just to piggyback what Member Montney was mentioning, every time we do this, I have OCD and PTSD watching Corporation Counsel Chris Spanos, so the city clerk, whether it's Amanda or it's Leslie, trying to scramble to get the exact words that we're all spitting. And I highly recommend we put something in place where they can get the wording right, safe in the cozy confines of their own desk, with a coffee in front of them, and get the words just right, so that we're not inviting a Scrivener's error or a de minimis error that we find three or four councils later that's made it into an ordinance or something. So fully support this.
Other members? Member Mosley.
Yeah, and the only question I got, right, when we talk about, even before we get to amendments, right, is at times, do we need an amendment, or do we just vote down what the proposal actually is if it's on the agenda? Because I get lost in that scenario sometimes as well. But then again, I think that we need to set what is the curbs for substantive, right? And so, or minor. And so I just want to make sure that we're going to be clear on that as well.
Thank you.
I,
Scott.
I do recognize the idea that we need structure here. I get it. That makes sense. And I do see some scrambling and all that kind of stuff. I do get a little nervous about removing the ability to make a motion to amend off of our city code. We would be the only body in surrounding areas that checked out that would not have the ability to make a motion or an amendment during a meeting. And I also think it prevents the option for collaboration and compromise if we don't have the ability to, in a discussion, say, here's our issue. I would be okay with moving forward if we have an amendment. I would be comfortable with people saying, hey, this is getting too much swirl. If people are confused or frustrated, to say, hey, let's go ahead and make a motion. Instead, encourage folks to make a motion to table versus to remove the option for amendments at all.
Thank you. Member Ward.
Yeah, I also have deep concerns about this. It not only takes away the opportunity for us to collaborate amongst ourselves as council members, but it takes away the opportunity for us to actually collaborate with the public. So thanks for those who are still here to listen to this, because frankly, if we had this process in place, anything that, if we were voting on data centers tonight, anything that you would have said that might have changed my mind or convinced me about something different, sorry, wouldn't be able to make an amendment about that. And I hope that you all can hear this and keep in mind that there are times where there are timeliness issues. We have had city staff sit at that table and say, we need an answer on this, or we're going to lose an opportunity. And they've said those words to us. And so it's do it now or don't do it at all. And I just feel like it shuts down the discussion. Some of the positive comments city government gets from time to time is that we actually have discussions out in the public, out where people can talk with one another. It's not all decided ahead of time in small groups. I feel like doing this sort of thing would chip away at that. So I have real reservations about this.
Other members? Member Montney.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the comments about the discussion. I do think the discussion aspect of this is important. Where I find myself supporting the structure is to have that conversation and then allow staff to capture that and present us with a clean version of what's been changed as a result, not to shut down the dialogue at all. This has been a great meeting tonight because we've had the opportunity to actually talk, which a lot of times we don't. So I do appreciate and see that point, but I have felt uncomfortable over the months that sometimes we are doing, as I think you described here with the role play with our council, where I'm confused as to what exactly are we voting on? What is the language explicitly that we're voting on? And that leads to the potential for unintended consequences that we haven't thoughtfully considered as we're crafting that on the floor.
May I respond to that?
Let's let Member Hendricks go first, who hasn't had a chance to speak on this issue. I don't
Sorry, I
think.
didn't want to. Yeah, stop anything. I definitely hear
I'll leave
both.
that to me. Go ahead.
I definitely hear both sides of this, and I'm generally open to figuring out what we can do in some way. And maybe it's we hold ourselves accountable, that we as a body commit to one another that we will try to meet some of these deadlines, less than a formal guidance, right? Because I will also say, like, we do have ways to do this more efficiently and quickly, which is through Robert's Rules of Order, which at times we struggle to figure out how that manages and how that works in our meetings. So we do kind of have a process for this, but I will say there are times that I also get uncomfortable because I'm not sure that we know the proper ways to continue the business moving forward, right? Through Robert's Rules and what those sorts of things look like. So maybe the agreement could be that we are going to hold each other accountable to this. And then if something were to be on the fly, that's something that we could, consider in that process of voting or making additional motions or amendments. I don't know. I do think we need something because it is very messy at times, and the public is watching. But I don't know if we need something strictly in stone.
Member Ward.
Yeah, I appreciate the need to be very clear about what the amendment is. And I get it that there are times where I know I've made amendments and there are times where I've struggled to get the wording right. And that's on me. And I would say to my fellow council members, vote my amendment down then. Vote against it. If you don't understand it, if you don't think I'm making my case adequately, vote it down. But let us not tie our hands when we do need to take our time to sort something out. I would much rather us do what we did. It didn't kill anybody to have 6 more minutes of public comment, right? We're here. This is what we're elected to do. If the meeting runs longer than 45 minutes, then so be it. Let us hash through this.
Thank you. Any other members?
Yeah. And I guess, thinking about it, after hearing what some of my colleagues are saying, like thinking about this in terms of it being a late amendment, like even just characterizing in that way kind of puts a spin on it that we should have already had this figured out. And to Councilmember Ward's point, like sometimes it is the point to figure it out together. After we've heard public input, after I've, been able to hear what, kind of how it's all laying out in the moment. But I do agree that there's, with the times that we're sitting there, like what are we doing? And then also to the point of, we've had issues of, tabled indefinitely, tabled to when's that gonna happen? And so I wouldn't want us to not change something so that we continue to play politics. And I wouldn't want it to be changed to something where now we're gonna play with this rule so that we can use it to our advantage. So I would also like have us look at it in that regard too. So, maybe I am more in favor of having like some training on Robert's Rules of Order, some best practices of how we're going to address amendments and how we conduct ourselves if there are ones in the moment. I mean, we were just talking about an ethics, um, rules that, maybe it's kind of an extension of that. Like we're all going to come with our best foot forward of what we want to accomplish in a meeting. And sometimes it gets a little messy because it's on the fly. And I don't think we should box ourselves in too much.
Thank you, Member Mosley.
Yeah, I guess I'll say this. And I don't want to say I'm on both sides, but I do want us to have some type of structure. And like Councilmember Hendricks said, right, is we want to have some balance because I do feel like some of our best work has been, I know Member Ward has made amendments before and we've kind of handled it in advance. And so if we can work towards this structure and do some of this offline and collaborate once we get to the meeting, even if we have competing issues that we're discussing. What I don't want at times is us to get away from the root of what's in front of us and start amending that before we can even get discussion towards that, right? So even if we just have a competing consideration in advance, I think by that 12 noon, that would be great. But I do think we need to have some degree of structure.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna echo the idea. I think we have opportunity to do some tightening before, say, changing code to be very different than other bodies around us.
Thank you. Any other members? Thank you. To all the comments, from what I hear, there is, I guess, feeling that some type of more structure could be appreciated at times. I think we've all sat through meetings where more structured, or whether we table or it should have been tabled or whatever the case may be, the more structured is something that's important. And I can't think of anything more important than a amendment before this council that should have a clear direction and understanding, not only by the public, but by the very people elected to place the vote, yes or no, on a particular issue. And when that becomes clouded and not understood by the council, it's time to step back and time to say we need more of a structure in which we can follow for the betterment of the people we all represent. Because if we don't understand exactly what we're voting on, and at the 11th hour changes are being made that cloud the vision and understanding of people that are here and elected to represent those people, we're not doing the service that we're elected for. So I will certainly, with this great input, bring back to the council from staff a amendment and to which to vote on before us after we look at some things and fine tune and talk to other members and get their input. So I appreciate that this evening. Any other comments on that? Okay. If not, I believe we can move to the city manager's discussion at this point. Mr. Tyus.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a couple of slides. First slide is that I wanted you all to be aware that Dutch Bros is open. And if you've been by there at any point recently, the lines have been like that top picture. They don't take that long though. But the service and the product is phenomenal. We had a ribbon cutting late last week, and this is their 1,197th store. So we're glad they chose Bloomington. Like I said, the product is phenomenal. Next slide, please. Urban Equity Properties. They have started the process of doing some of their light work to move equipment into the building to start on what is going to be this transformational housing development in the downtown Bloomington. They had streets blocked a couple of days last week, and I think they had them blocked this week as well. I believe they were closing on financing today, which is a great sign. They are planning a ribbon cutting. We don't have a date yet, but we're still working on that. But more to come, probably in early June. I'm looking at you, Kelly, to be able to celebrate this project. But it is about to begin in earnest, so we're excited about that. And finally, I don't want anyone to leave this room thinking that what I said about you can't ban data centers to mean somehow we're looking to backdoor it or anything like that. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is that statute, our understanding is that, and we're going to continue to research that, statute says that you can't use a zoning ordinance to not allow for illegal use of land. However, you can heavily regulate properties to meet your community's needs, in a lot of cases to the point where they're not going to want to come anyway. So that's not what we would be doing. We're going to be fair in our review of all of this, but I didn't want anyone to leave the room thinking that that's what I was saying. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we'll, at this stage, be prepared to move into executive session regarding matters dealing with our city manager's review and also a potential settlement regarding a claim settlement. So I would ask for a motion at this time.
I'll make
and
that
a
motion.
second. Motion by Member Hendricks, seconded by
Second.
Member Dannenberger. And the motion and seconded it's on the floor for personnel matters and a potential claim to be settled. At this point, the council will enter an executive session under 5 Illinois statute.
Mayor, point of order. I think we need to vote on that.
Yep, we do. Once I read the disclaimer, thank you very much for that. Under section 5 LCS 120 section 2C1 for the personnel matter that I just explained, as well as for a potential claim settlement. And now we could take a vote to go into executive session.
Councilmember Kearns?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes.
Councilmember Motney?
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberger?
Yes.
Councilmember Straza?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Aye.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Thank you. Last to clear the room, and then we will enter into executive session. If there's anyone that would need to take a break, this would be the time. we're back up. Then if we're going then to, we've come out of executive session and we are going to ask for a motion to adjourn our regular session.
A motion to adjourn.
By member Hendricks and
Second.
seconded by member Dannenberg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting of Committee of the Whole on Monday, May the 18th. Thank you.